The U.S. Department of Justice announced the largest international trafficking bust in U.S. history. On September 3rd, 29 defendants, including 22 Chinese nationals, 4 Chinese pharmaceutical companies, and 3 U.S. citizens, were indicted by a federal grand jury in Dayton, Ohio.
Today, a multi-agency probe reportedly struck at a chemical supply chain tied to illegal opioid production. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the Drug Enforcement Administration announced charges and seizures after months of tracing orders, payments, and shipments. What did investigators say they found? Who did prosecutors name? What do the numbers reportedly mean for communities in Ohio and beyond? But as agents dug deeper into the digital trail, a darker pattern emerged, one that raised a chilling question: who was directing it all? What the authorities are saying. Federal law enforcement agencies say they carried out a wide investigation that connected chemical exporters in China to suspected traffickers in southern Ohio. According to officials, the focus was on cutting agents, chemicals that can boost the strength or a yield of illegal opioids when mixed in. These are not harmless lab reagents, but substances that, when misused, can make illegal substances more lethal. Investigators reportedly followed a trail of orders that started in China and ended in the United States. Agents reviewed export documents, shipping invoices, and carrier tracking records. They also seized computers and phones, which revealed email chains and spreadsheets showing how orders were placed, negotiated, and paid for. Authorities say payments flowed through digital means. Prosecutors describe United States buyers wiring funds or sending cryptocurrency to payment addresses controlled by people linked to Chinese chemical firms. Investigators track those payments to accounts outside the United States. A grand jury in Dayton, Ohio, returned indictments against a large network consisting of 3 United States citizens, 22 Chinese nationals, and 4 companies based in China. The 4 companies named are Guangzhou Tengyue Chemical Company, Guangzhou Wanjiang Biotechnology Company, Hebei Hongjun New Material Technology Company, and Hebei Feilimi Technology Company. The United States Attorney Dominic Gerace said that according to the indictment, these companies knew exactly what kinds of customers they were serving. He said they explicitly marketed and shipped controlled substances and other compounds to the United States, materials they understood would be used to produce powerful substances mixtures. Attorney General Pamela Bondi supported that view, saying that stopping illegal opioids means cutting off the supply of these dangerous precursors. FBI Director Kash Patel emphasized that this case is historic. He explained that agents say they seized enough illegal opioids and related material to pose a major public health risk, and that they have now named the firms and individuals allegedly behind it. 3 United States citizens were charged. One is Eric Michael Payne, 39, from Tip City, Ohio, accused by prosecutors of buying large shipments of cutting agents. Authorities say his partner, Orion Tristan Rayford, also of Tip City, helped move money via cryptocurrency. The third person, Keandrea Brine Davis from Atlanta, is said to have transferred funds as well. Between 2022 and today, prosecutors claim the defendants purchased at least 10 kilograms of cutting agents. They argue that when mixed with opioids, that amount could generate more than 150 kilograms of finished mixture, a huge volume for street distribution. The agents also identified some chemical agents described in the case as animal tranquilizers, which, according to them, can be up to 200 times more powerful than opioid. International coordination was a big part of the investigation. American agents reportedly worked with overseas partners to track shipments, carry out searches, and collect business records. Authorities also used subpoenas, search warrants, and expert labs to analyze the substances seized in United States addresses. Law enforcement officials made it clear that these are more than just trafficking arrests. This investigation is about disrupting a supply chain from Chinese manufacturers to the streets of the United States of America. Prosecutors say the indictment is just the beginning. The case will now go into court, where a judge or jury will decide what evidence holds up. All the names and counts listed in the indictment reflect what the government claims in its charging documents. A formal legal process will now test whether those claims are correct. But as the case moved forward, investigators uncovered something far more unsettling. Who exactly was orchestrating the network's hidden operations? People and companies involved. The investigation led authorities to identify a group of individuals and companies allegedly involved in the chemical supply network. 3 United States citizens were indicted alongside 22 Chinese nationals. Among the United States residents, Eric Michael Payne and Orion Tristan Rayford were arrested and face federal charges for allegedly purchasing chemicals tied to the network. Their names appear in court filings that outline the roles they reportedly played in arranging orders and handling shipments. The third American citizen is also named in the indictments, but remains under further legal proceedings. On the international side, 4 Chinese chemical companies were listed in the indictments. Prosecutors allege that these firms supplied chemical precursors and cutting agents that were used in the production of illegal substances. The companies named are Guangzhou Tengyue Chemical Company, Guangzhou Wanjiang Biotechnology Company, Hebei Hongjun New Material Technology Company, and Hebei Feilimi Technology Company. Court documents describe transactions linking these companies to orders from those who were buying from the United States of America, highlighting the roles of company officers and employees who processed the requests and facilitated shipments. Authorities allege that the Chinese nationals acted on behalf of those companies. Some are described as employees handling sales and logistics, while others are listed as company officers overseeing transactions. These individuals are associated with emails, phone numbers, and financial accounts that prosecutors say demonstrate coordination with buyers in the United States. Shipping addresses and invoices included in filings suggest that the network operated across multiple locations, with communications and payments traced through commercial channels. Court filings detail the evidence tying these individuals and companies to the alleged scheme. Prosecutors list bank statements, email correspondence, and shipment records as part of the case presented to the federal grand jury. Investigators reportedly matched package tracking numbers to the addresses and companies involved. This combination of documents is described in indictments as supporting the alleged connections between buyers in the United States and suppliers in China. The filings also show that some of those buyers purchased quantities of chemicals that prosecutors allege were intended for use in increasing opioids production. Court records outline the business registration details of each company and the communication logs that federal authorities say link individual buyers to the firms. These materials were presented in grand jury proceedings to justify the indictments and to establish the alleged roles of each named party. Federal prosecutors emphasize that being named in an indictment is a legal allegation. Charges must be proven in court before any judgment is rendered. The documents make it clear that the defendants are entitled to legal counsel and to challenge evidence presented against them. Court filings also identify the roles of specific individuals within the companies, including those responsible for handling payments, processing orders, and coordinating shipments across borders. This segment highlights the network's scope as described in the indictments. By listing individuals and companies along with their alleged actions, authorities aim to provide a clear picture of the parties involved. From company officers in China to the United States residents accused of facilitating purchases, the filings describe a chain of connections that federal prosecutors contend links buyers to suppliers. The information shared here reflects the allegations detailed in court filings. Each person and firm named faces potential criminal charges that will be resolved through the federal judicial process. Defendants maintain the right to defend themselves, and all claims in the indictments remain not proven until examined in court. But as prosecutors traced each connection deeper, one chilling discovery raised a far bigger question: just how vast was this network? The law enforcement reports found. Federal agents said they uncovered a massive web of evidence, and it is not just paperwork but real, measurable materials. According to the investigation, they seized 139 kilograms of chemical substances tied to the network and arrested 29 individuals involved in Ohio. On top of that, they gathered detailed financial records and communications to map how these chemicals were bought, paid for, and shipped. Investigators followed payment trails through bank transfers and cryptocurrency transactions. The indictment describes payments made from the buyers, routed through digital wallets controlled by people abroad. Law enforcement tracked those funds into overseas accounts, showing exactly how money was flowing. Meanwhile, shipping documents and package tracking revealed how the materials physically made their way into the United States from commercial carriers to confirmed delivery addresses. When agents opened those packages, they did not just find harmless lab reagents. Forensic labs tested the loads and confirmed that many samples matched the kind of cutting agents prosecutors tied to the case. Those agents are described in the court documents as capable of boosting opioids' potency. They are not neutral, benign substances. The laboratory reports, as laid out in the filings, show chemical structures that align with items listed in invoices and order forms. Investigators went further and seized some of their phones, laptops, and emails as possible evidence. According to the charging papers, these devices carried spreadsheets, email threads, and order records showing discussions between purchasers in America and sellers in China. Tracking numbers from shipments appeared alongside messages that detailed quantities, prices, and delivery logistics. That level of detail suggests these were not accidental or casual transactions. Authorities also say they used agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement together on this. Some worked on analyzing the chemistry, as others focused on the money trail. Their goal was twofold: to show the physical movement of chemicals and to prove how financial flows supported that movement. Another piece of evidence tied to the case was suspected money laundering. Prosecutors allege that defendants used intermediaries and layered transactions to hide the origin of funds. According to court files, transfers went through multiple accounts and foreign banking channels. That helped make the trail more complex and harder to trace until investigators dug in. Handling seized materials was not trivial. Authorities reportedly called in hazardous material experts. Lab technicians tested each sample, and during that process, tight security was enforced in the facility to avoid tampering with evidence. They documented the chain of custody carefully to preserve the integrity of the evidence for the court. This way, when the materials are presented later, judges and juries can rely on detailed forensic work. Law enforcement's public statement on the seizures painted a picture of cooperation across agencies. The Department of Justice says they relied on lab results and shipping records, and also on cross-border help to analyze business registration data, match digital wallets, and identify company representative roles. That international coordination was essential in tying together the supply chain's full scope. The evidence amassed forms the backbone of the indictment brought before the grand jury. According to court documents, authorities believe they have collected enough proof, shipment records, financial trails, and tests to show how the network operated from Chinese chemical companies to those in the United States of America. We have talked about what investigators say they uncovered, but with all this evidence laid out so meticulously, what crucial revelation were investigators still holding back from the public, and why? The charges and legal steps. A federal grand jury in Dayton returned indictments that started the legal process for the charged people and companies. Prosecutors say the case centers on sales of chemical supplies that allegedly were used to increase the potency of opioids. The primary counts include conspiracy to distribute a large amount of opioids mixture and conspiracy to launder money internationally. The indictment also lists possession with intent to distribute 400 grams or more of a opioids mixture, tampering with evidence, and maintaining a substance-involved premise. The United States Department of Justice says the court papers name people who allegedly ordered the materials, made payments, and arranged shipments between overseas sellers and buyers in the United States of America. Eric Michael Payne of Tip City, Ohio, is accused of supplying cutting agents to traffickers in southern Ohio. Orion Tristan Rayford of Tip City is charged with transferring more than $60,000 in cryptocurrency to overseas contacts and with allowing illegal substances at her residence. A third United States citizen, Chiandrea Brine Davis of Atlanta, is also charged in the grand jury filings. Charging documents include transaction records that show at least 10 kilograms of cutting agents purchased by the United States buyers. Those purchases, the charging papers say, could yield more than 150 kilograms of opioids mixture for street distribution. The United States Department of the Treasury Office of Foreign Assets Control imposed sanctions on Guangzhou Tengyue Chemical Company and on 2 of its representatives. Sanctions restrict access to the United States banking system and can freeze assets under United States jurisdiction. After indictments are filed, courts begin standard steps. Arrested defendants appear for arraignment, where judges read charges and ask for a plea. Judges set bail conditions or order detention if they determine there is a risk to public safety or a risk of flight. Defense lawyers can file motions to challenge how evidence was obtained, including motions to suppress items taken during searches. Prosecutors must provide documents in discovery, including laboratory reports, invoices, communications, and shipping records. Some charged people remain outside United States custody, and extradition requires formal legal requests and cooperation from the country where an accused person lives. The People's Republic of China does not routinely surrender citizens under a standard treaty process, which can delay or prevent transfer to United States courts. While extradition may be limited, prosecutors can seek asset restraints, civil forfeiture orders, and other measures to limit alleged business activity tied to the charges. The legal path will include hearings on motions, expert testimony from forensic chemists and financial investigators, and scheduling orders that set trial dates. Many federal cases are resolved by plea agreement, though some move to trial. If convicted, defendants face prison terms and fines that reflect the seriousness of trafficking illegal substances and money laundering counts. Deputy Criminal Chief Brent Tabaki and Assistant United States Attorney Elizabeth McCormick represent the United States in this matter. Defendants will have legal representation available. Court dockets will record motions, rulings, and dates as lawyers and judges manage the process. But as the legal machinery moved forward, a deeper question emerged. What hidden forces were still operating behind the scenes, unnoticed? What happened next? How did officials respond after the indictments and arrests? United States Attorney Dominic Gerace spoke in Cincinnati to explain what the grand jury returned. Leaders from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Dr. G Enforcement Administration, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement described how officers handled seized materials and how evidence was gathered. They said the actions aimed to stop chemical supplies that allegedly supported illegal opioid production. Who handled the evidence? Forensic chemists and hazardous materials specialists took custody of seized items. Analysts ran laboratory tests and wrote reports that prosecutors added to charging papers. Agents gathered invoices, emails, shipping receipts, carrier tracking numbers, bank records, and device contents to link orders to named companies and to show payment flows. The record that prosecutors presented included laboratory results, communications, and financial documents. Authorities said in a press release that they had confiscated 139 kilograms and detained 29 people in Ohio. Charging papers also list specific purchases, including orders of at least 10 kilograms of cutting agents that prosecutors say could be mixed into opioids. Those numbers are presented as reported allegations. Courts will sort the facts during hearings and at trial if the cases go that far. What happens next in court? Those who were arrested will appear in court, where the judge will read their charges and take pleas. Judges will set bail terms or order detention if there is concern about safety or flight risk. Defense lawyers will ask to review evidence and may file motions to challenge how documents and devices were obtained. Prosecutors must share reports, invoices, and test results so both sides can prepare for hearings and for trial scheduling. What about defendants who are not in the custody of the United States of America? The Department of Justice may seek cooperation from foreign governments. Extradition depends on treaties and on the willingness of other nations to transfer accused people. When accused citizens remain abroad, prosecutors can still seek asset restraints, civil forfeiture, and administrative sanctions to limit business activity tied to the allegations. Will sanctions play a role? The United States Department of the Treasury Office of Foreign Assets Control can block accounts and restrict trade for companies named in legal filings. Sanctions can prevent a firm from using the United States banking system or from working with United States businesses. Prosecutors said such measures are part of a broader set of legal tools that can complement criminal charges. Will there be more charges later? Investigations often continue as agents review additional records. Prosecutors said further filings are possible if new evidence emerges. Courts will set discovery schedules so experts can disclose methods, and so financial examiners can summarize payment trails. How will the public stay informed? Court dockets will list arraignments, motions, and trial dates. Official filings will show documents that support the charges. Residents were urged not to handle unknown parcels and to report suspicious shipments to law enforcement. As the legal process moves forward, courts will determine whether the allegations are proven beyond a reasonable doubt. As this case moves through the courts, the questions it raises reach far beyond Ohio. Who else is linked to these networks? How many similar operations remain undetected? Federal agents say the investigation is ongoing, and more revelations may be coming. Stay tuned, because as prosecutors continue to peel back the layers, the story is only getting darker, deeper, and far more global than anyone expected.